Okay, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the next session, which is Metadata 2021, always a very important topic. So today we have Sarah Ray from NCDOT, who's also the chair of the working group for metadata with the Geographic Information Coordinating Council. Sarah is the spatial data manager for NCDIT Transportation. She's responsible for enterprise management of the linear referencing, editing, and map service publication geodatabases. She has over 20 years of experience in GIS, and she's ready to share with us the status of metadata in North Carolina. I would invite you to submit questions to the chat, and we will cover those at the end of the session. And rest assured, this session will be recorded and you'll have access to it later on. So with that, I'll turn it over to Sarah and welcome all of you to this session.
Thank you, Tim. Good morning, everybody. Like Tim said, my name's Sarah Ray, and I'm here to talk to you today about metadata in 2021, specifically about the work that the council and the working group have done to get us to a metadata profile and compliance within the state, and some work that the working group is looking to do this year, thus the 2021. So I'll start at the beginning. What is metadata? For any of those of you who are not familiar with the work, specifically for geospatial data, it's the file of information that captures the basic characteristics of our digital data. The files, the databases, the imagery. If you're creating data, if you're creating a product, if it's housed in our systems, on our computers, there is metadata to document your work. It represents the who, what, when, where, why, and how of the resources that we're using and the resources that we create. But it can also be used to document catalogs, applications, data models. It was funny, back in 9/11, all of a sudden, metadata about cell phone conversations became very important. And all of a sudden, my family was able to talk to me about what metadata was. So it is just the documentation of the work that we're doing. And the work that this working group is doing is specifically about geospatial data. Who's promoting the profile and why? So the North Carolina Geographic Information Coordinating Council, through the State Mapping Advisory Committee, created a working group for metadata. Now, this working group has been on and off as the needs arise and things change between international, federal, and state guidance. And our goal is to facilitate metadata creation for all levels of government and private sector that are working in North Carolina, improve the quality of this documentation, standardize it, integrate the international standards so that when we are sharing our information with each other to federally, internationally, that the standard for that metadata is easily consumable and readable. And we want to preserve our data investments. There's a lot of work you guys do, we all do every day to create the best available data for decision makers across our agencies and our companies. And the best thing we can do is document that. And then it enhances data discovery. All of that work you guys do is no good if nobody can find it and use it and make the best decisions they can. It's a little love note to the future. Who is this profile intended? When I say profile, what I mean is that there's international standards for how to document your metadata. Here in North Carolina, we've come up with a way that you can document your metadata that is approved in a North Carolina way. And I'll go over that in just a little bit. But this profile and these standards, it's for all of us. You get metadata, she gets metadata, he gets metadata, they get metadata. It's all levels of government, private sector partners. It's the best way we can to assure we're all using the right information at the right time for the right reasons. Where to find this profile? NC1 map, of course. You go to NC1 map, search the word metadata, and you will be sent to the metadata documentation page. This screenshot here shows a bit of our how-to guides and the link directly to the document that is our profile. There are links to other websites. There is documentation. There are presentations. There are links to federal resources. There are links to the software resources here. And again, these how-to guides. So as you're wondering about NC1 map, take a look over at that metadata page, and there's the link there. So training on NC1 map. NC1 map, on that same metadata page, we have a number of links to YouTube videos that were built by Dr. Mulrooney and his team over at North Carolina Central University. I'm going to lean in to make sure I get it right. The Department of Environment, Earth, and Geospatial Services. So these are videos, introduction to metadata videos, introduction to the profile, introduction to our documentation, and a bit of how-tos, how to actually use the software to document your metadata. It's on the same website, so you don't have to kind of search through YouTube. This will take you there. But once you get there, you might find that you're interested in some of the work that NC Central is doing in the geospatial realm. Take a look at some of those students. It's really, really impressive. All right. So just a little bit about how to read the North Carolina profile document. There's different sections of the document. There's an intro, there's the reason that you should do metadata and why you should do compliant metadata. There's background information about the standards that the committee used to build the North Carolina profile. Again, those go back to the international standards. And then there's a how-to. How do you actually document your metadata to meet the North Carolina and international standards? And we do distinguish between the data itself and then being able to document metadata for geospatial services. There are different requirements based on the kind of product that you're creating, and we give guidance for both of those. There is a host of appendices that represent the domains and code lists and the reference documents and feature catalog information that's needed. So it's a good document, gives you the background, and then walks you through it. But the secret to this profile is ultimately the tables that start on page 9. That's the secret of the profile document. And these tables are organized into 3 columns. And this is what is so important. The green colors indicate that it's part of our North Carolina profile. So just by the color coding alone, if it's not orange, it's part of our profile and it should be documented. But the table is really helpful. In the first column, it actually tells you the metadata element and its name. It's, for example, title. And that it's mandatory, and we'll let you know if it's optional. The data type column lets you know what kind of content value, type of values are going to be allowed for that element. So for title, it's going to be free text. But we wanted to go one step further in the working group. And many thanks to Steve Averett, the previous chair who helped drive this document into creation, along with tons and tons of committee members from all ranges of public, private sector, and federal government. So we really wanted to focus on being able to provide guidance and examples. So not only do you see the name of the element, the kind of content data type it needs to be, but we've given you a best practice definition and best practice examples for every single one. So you're not going into it blind, you've got examples and definitions and reasons. That's the secret to the profile, to just walk your way through the table. We also, in developing the profile and the specifics of how to fill it out, recognize that in order to facilitate that documentation of the metadata, we need to call out the software that people are using to do this documentation. It's very common internationally and federally to use XML editors, basically nearly text editors, to do this metadata documentation. And the metadata working group realized that was asking a lot of our local governments and our colleagues, especially the local governments, to take on the burden of another documentation system, and that we want to help to facilitate the ability to document our data within the systems that we use to create the data itself. But we also don't want to be software specific. We want to be agnostic to that. So we've done research into the Esri abilities to write our metadata. So if you're using Esri as your native data creation software platform, that you can use it to also do your software documentation. And on the open source side, very similar guidance and software research that we're doing. QGIS, of course, has a number of metadata extensions, and there is an independent open source software editor, CatMDEdit, that is super, super great for imports and exports of metadata. It's actually very, very useful. To talk real quick about an implementation success that we've had here at NCDOT, we have over 350 data sets that are now North Carolina profile compliant. These are data sets that are supporting some of our major systems you may have heard of, like Atlas, Spot Online, our strategic planning, our cooperating technical, CTP, long range planning plans. And we've also newly adopted data publishing standards. Here's a link, I'm happy to share it with you. And what we're moving toward is for anybody that we've enabled to create data and publish data in ArcGIS Online, that they're now going to have to agree to document their services and data with metadata. And we'll have some oversight over that. And feel free to contact me anytime. I'd be happy to talk to you about any of that. We've also known of some successes and some great work happening over at City of Greensboro, the Division of Water Quality, our Forest Service, federal partners, EPA, all sorts of things like that. So our Metadata Committee for 2021, what we need to do is reevaluate the tools that are out there, make sure that our recommendations are still solid, that the tools that we have previously engaged with are still solid as well. And as any of the new information is coming out, that we're documenting it, testing it, and updating our documentation as needed. This is to include updating our current ARC catalog how-to document to include an ARC Pro how-to document. Evaluating some of the new extension work with Geo Network that the new extension work with the Geo package specification that is out, and then also evaluating the federal work with the Geo Network. It was kind of a pilot program a couple of years ago, and now they've been using it, and we need to learn a little bit more. There could be offering some additional tools for us, could be available to us as well. So if we get the tools reevaluated, we update our documentation, we've got to train everybody. We need to update our YouTube videos and then actually reach out and visit you and offer this training online, how to hands-on. And we really want to increase our implementation percentage across the state of the North Carolina profile. So the next steps for our committee this year, we're going to update the charter, make sure we're meeting those goals that the council has set out for us. We're recruiting new members. Do you like structure? Do you like standards? Do you wish others would document their data too? We need your help. Please contact me or Tim Johnson. We would be happy to get your volunteers, your voluntold, and we would love to have you on the committee. We've got a lot of really interesting work to do. If you've got some trainers that would want to help with the training aspect, we would love to work with them too. So please contact us. We need some new members to get this rolling. We're going to update that training and implementation plans. We're going to get these newer tools and the updated tools reviewed and documented, and get those how-to docs updated for the current software. So thank you for coming to a metadata talk on a Friday morning. I super duper appreciate it. I love talking about metadata. I love getting it documented, and I love even more when you're in a crunch and you download or access somebody else's data and you can tell where it's coming from, the last time it was updated, the next time it's going to be updated, and you can trust that information. So I encourage you all to review the profile. Contact me if you've got any questions about implementation. And again, if you would love to join our working group, we would love to have you. So Tim, are there any questions?
Well, I feel that questions are coming in. We have one right now, and this one is from Kat Clifton. What software solution have you found to be most efficient for you in maintaining metadata? Do you well, let's answer that one first. It's a multi-question.
Our office at DOT happens to be an Esri office. So we actually took the how-to guide and ARC catalog and have kind of updated it for DOT specific things. That seems to be helpful for our users because they're using the software natively. Me personally, I loved that CAT MD edit functionality. I was able to pull in and pull out and load back in. The Esri tools act a little weird when you kind of pull profiles back in, but the CAT MD edit was my personal favorite. But for ease of use and the native, whatever you're using natively to create your data, if there's a metadata extension, it seems to be more likely that it will be used.
Okay, the rest of the questions, this is in the multi-part question. Do you export metadata from this software into other formats? And which ones and why?
So I wish I had my technical person who does all my import exports. right here next to me. I'm sure she's on the call. Yes. So with the Esri system, you have to be kind of particular and make sure you've got all of your settings. One of the biggest things we do is export it for publishing in a PDF format so that people can more easily have the chance to read it instead of kind of searching behind the scenes to get to the metadata. We wanted to align with the ISO standards. So as the tools become available and are using the 1991-5-3, as the standards roll out, the newest validation standard was finally released sometime recently. Again, timeframes in the last year, I don't know. So definitely use all of the internally built Esri capabilities to import and export as needed. You just have to go into any of the systems, have all of the configurations. Mostly the best chance is to identify what you're in, identify where you're going to, export to XML, and then load it into your other systems. I've got technical people who will use the correct words and tell you more about it. Please feel free to contact me.
Okay, looks like we have a couple more questions. This one's from Sam Feldstein.
Hey, Sam.
How would this information help road inventory, since we also do work with metadata?
Oh man, it would help, I think, tremendously. So some of the road inventory work kind of natively has metadata as a result of the tools that you're using to do your data collection. But we could harvest that a little bit better to communicate things like currency and the collection editor themselves. One of the things we also need to do with road inventory is not only to take that information as part of the collection, but as you guys load that into the other enterprise systems, is to better document that so that those that are integrating with those enterprise systems can know the currency of that data too. So I think there's a lot of work there. We certainly make sure to have metadata on our published products from DOT as much as possible. Some of our internal systems are still suffering from a lack of this kind of documentation. So Sam, yeah, I'd love to work with you, talk about how we can shore that up a little bit.
Okay, we have one more question, and I wanted to share a couple of comments that came in as well. The question is from Mark Darwin, and you can give an answer to this one. Is the metadata process in Arc Pro different from what Arc Desktop had?
Just a little bit. For the most part, the editor is the same. The new functionality that is there is more on the services publication side. There are configurations in Arc Pro when you use Arc Pro to publish your service that you can publish the feature level metadata into that service with it. And that's really, the editor itself is pretty much the same, but that new functionality is really critical to making those distinctions in the services between the feature level metadata and the service level metadata.
Okay, very good. The last two comments are just comments. They're not questions, but I thought you needed to hear them based on your presentation. First one is from Susan Gale. Just wanted to say that all of the videos and other resources on NC One Map were invaluable when I was first trying to implement the NC standard. Thanks for all of that effort. We appreciate that, Susan.
Oh, good.
And the final comments from Mike Dixon. Thank you for creating, maintaining, and presenting this profile. One of my biggest projects this year is to create metadata for our county's data. This has given my project focus and support. Thank you.
Well, good. If there's anything that the committee can do to help with that, let us know. We're a resource to you guys too, as you guys go to implement. You're not alone. feel free to call us. We're happy to help you, and we want to show off the work that you're doing. Tim's always asking us, like, what level of percentage of our local governments are able to use the profile or are on their way. So please let us know. We want to know. We want to report to the council these successes. And we want to know if you're struggling as well, because maybe we can help you over those humps and get you to that success percentage.
That's all the questions in the chat and the comments. So,
okay.
Thank you, Sarah, and thank you everyone for contributing to this session. Look forward to the next session, which starts at 11 o'clock. So you have 5 minutes given back to you. And thanks for attending the conference, and hope you'll stick in there for the rest of the conference.
Thank you, Tim. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks. Just capturing the rest of the chat.
Okay, I wasn't sure what I was supposed to do next.
I think you're good.
All right.
So I've got some additional comments. So I'll send you this just so you have it.
Thank you.
And a couple of the comments came from somebody by the name of Jeff Brown.
I love that he's been popping in and out. It's so great. Everybody's like, Jeff's here every time.
Tom Tribble's supposed to be here somewhere, but I haven't seen him on the chat, so I don't know if he's
being tricky.
Yeah. So Mark Clifford commented thanks as well. So
good.
That. Yep. All right. So I'm going to sign off on this one.
All right. Thank you so much, Tim. I appreciate it.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.